In this episode, the ocean signs a death warrant for one sailor, but thanks to the U.S. Navy, he gets a stay of execution. We're going to talk to Peter Gibbons-Neff about solo sailing, and then finally we're going to talk about a rescue which happened over 1,000 miles away from shore. In this episode, you're going to learn the importance of throwable devices and 3D planning. Enjoy.
Get ready for a massive roll-up. Think about a candy bar. Right there. Let's go. Right there.
During the 1951 Transpac race from San Diego all the way to Honolulu, Hawaii, 2,225 miles. On July 11th, Ted Sirks aboard La Apache. He was leaning on the stern rail when it gave way. He went into the drink 800 miles away from Hawaii, 1,100 miles away from San Diego. Fortunately, when Ted hit the water, his teammates saw him go overboard. They threw 2 life rings. On those life rings were flashlights and knives. Ted was able to grab one of those, but it took them a long time to get their spinnakers down before they turned around to try to come and find Ted.
This is Lepage. This is Lepage. We have lost a man overboard.
Before the skipper can ask for Lepage's position, Evening Star transmits it. Positions of other boats in the vicinity are carefully noted. Then Gossip Skipper goes on the air.
This is Gossip calling. Lepage, we have your position and are changing course immediately to render assistance.
Toward Lepage's position, Gossip turns north and west. Evening Star swings southwest. Dragoon behind shifts a few points to starboard. Java Head swings up. Skylark, far ahead, comes about. A Navy task force in the area heads southward.
With his head bobbing in between 6-foot waves, Ted was almost impossible to see. B-17s, Navy ships, other vessels were searching for him all night long. Incredibly, it ended up to be 6 yachts, 8 Navy vessels, 2 B-17s, but nobody was able to find Ted while he was bobbing up and down in the water.
This is Lepage calling Gossip. 5 destroyers and a carrier are sweeping the area. For safety, yachts will please clear the area and proceed on the race.
But from Ted's point of view, he saw searchlights looking for him. Twice vessels came within just a few hundred meters of him. He saw B-17s. He saw parachute flares lighting up the sky. But to no avail, nobody saw Ted in the water, except for a couple sharks. Because the throw ring had a knife on it, it gave Ted the ability to fight off some of those sharks. He fought them off, killed one, and the rest kept their distance after that. After 31 hours, believing nobody could survive in these conditions, the Navy called off the rescue. One captain said $50 to the guy that can actually find Ted while he's in the water on the way back. Sure enough, that 50 makes a lot of those sailors think a lot smarter and look a lot further, and it worked. The Navy provided a stay of execution, and they saved Ted Sirks.
This is the USS Monroe calling Gossip. We have recovered Ted Sirks in active condition. He needs no medical attention. Please notify fleet. Over.
Was Ted lucky? Well, certainly the Navy, the Air Force, they practice search and rescue along with the Coast Guard every single day. But often, luck prefers the prepared. Without that throwable device at hand, that death warrant was going to be collected by the ocean. It's important, even if you're a solo sailor, because you never know what's going to be behind the next wave. The throwable device as a solo sailor is not for yourself. The throwable device is for someone else. You could be that hero. You might have the opportunity to stay that execution that the ocean writes. Now, there's also some solo sailors that are out there that believe that there's no need when they're 100 to 50 to 200 out of reach of the Coast Guard for them to wear a PFD.
Be rescued. So normally when I'm at sea, I have my belt on, and that's got my elastic thing on, and I try and clip on as much as I can when I need to. That's because there's no point wearing a life jacket as a solo sailor, because no one's going to come back and get you. So you could argue, well, if you've got a PLB, and yeah, maybe, but it's pretty cold water, and unless I go in wearing a dry suit, I've only got 2 or 3 hours, and there's no ship going to get to me in 2 or 3 hours.
But I think in 1951, if we can save a sailor 800 miles away from shore, that there is a possibility with PLBs and AISs that we have the technology today to reach out a lot further distances. I have an opportunity to interview Peter Gebbins-Neff. Now, Peter is a U.S. Patriot Sailing, my friend, my teammate. Peter is the skipper of this thing. What's its name?
Terminal Leave.
Tell me about Terminal Leave.
So Terminal Leave is an RG650. It's part of the Class Mini series that's designed to race in the Mini Transat. So last year I raced this solo across the Atlantic Ocean, 4,050 nautical miles, in a fleet of 90 boats, all the same size.
That's fantastic. So how big is it length overall?
6.5 meters or about 21 feet.
21 feet all the way across the Atlantic. In 2 stages, right?
That's correct, yeah, two legs.
Tell me about the first leg.
So first leg took about 10 days, and that's leaving Les Sables in France, going down to the Canary Islands. And that's a very challenging part, getting out of the Bay of Biscay, going along the west coast of Europe there, west coast of Africa, Morocco, and then getting to, and you got to finish that leg to be able to start the second leg.
So the Bay of Biscay, also known as the Bay of Certain Death?
Absolutely. We hit a front coming out of there, and one of the boats just 5 miles away from me dismasted. So it is a very challenging place to sail.
Yeah.
The second leg's the longer leg, so 2,700 miles, and that took about 20 days. So that's going from the Canaries across the Atlantic West to Guadeloupe for the finish over there. And that is the long leg of the race. Yeah, took about 20 days.
This episode, we're talking about PFDs and solo sailors. Very well accomplished solo sailor. Do you wear your PFD?
All the time.
Every single time?
When I'm solo sailing, every single time.
Every single time.
And even when I'm double-handed sailing, I try to wear it. I think it all comes down to, if I have other people on the boat, it's all about managing the risk.
So this is the Vito. Tell me about your Vito and what you have on it.
So this is what I wore for the last couple seasons. I really like this because this was designed by offshore sailors for offshore sailors. So with this one, as you can see, I have a personal EPIRB on there. And then I also have a PLB, the personal AIS beacon, actually inside of here as well.
So
I didn't have enough room for both.
Right.
So I put one inside and then I put the other one outside
and
here.
it's attached.
Yeah, the harness release system, so that I can release this if I'm getting dragged behind a boat to prevent drowning.
Right.
And then it's also like hydrostatic release for the life jackets. You know, if you're wearing it, it's for your safety. It's also for your family knowing that you're safe.
Yeah.
But then also, if you're filming a lot of videos like Schaefer, you know, wearing the life jacket, demonstrating the right way to wear a life jacket, the right way to use it, I think is a really important part of our community of increasing that knowledge base for the newer people that are newer to sailing, and
Absolutely
showing
right.
people, just demonstrating the right way to wear a life jacket. Schaefer, and glad to be on here.
We're both part of Patriot Sailing too, so follow us. Thanks a lot. Stick with me for one more amazing rescue story where this baby 1,000 miles away from shore gets rescued. The baby was sick, the boat was taken on water, the skipper had no choice for his family but to launch the EPIRB and turn it on. Outside of the range of the United States Coast Guard, the elite para-rescue team from the United States Air Force was called to handle this task. Here's the scenario. Big storms, big waves. The boat's taken on water. You have a baby critically ill. There's no hope for these people in sight, and the baby most likely, with the rest of them, are in peril. We don't know what's going to happen, but the United States Air Force links onto the EPIRB, and they fly the MH-130 all the way to the destination. In searching such as this for a rescue, there's a lot of players at hand. You have the Coast Guard, you have the Rescue Coordination Center, you have the Air Force, you've got the skipper on the boat. All the things have to come together with the right supplies. So not only does the C-130 have to drop off a boat, medical supplies, they have to chop off the PJs. They need to bring enough tools on there if needed and enough food to support the vessel for 3 to 4 days at sea. Final approach, they kick out the Zodiac, they kick out the supplies, they throw out the 4 PJs, and they float down to the water. Once they reach the water, they unpack the Zodiac, they put the motor on it, they fill it up, they put everybody on it, and then they motor their way all the way to the vessel, which is in distress. Once the PJs get on board the vessel, the primary concern they have right now is their own safety, so they make sure the vessel's safe. We put 4 PJs on the boat. By doing so, you have 2 working the problem, 2 working with the person that's sick. This worked out really well. They did their assessment, they put together a treatment plan, and then they started monitoring the baby. The first thing you do in a situation like that, when you're going to be waiting 48 hours for a pickup, is to get some organization. And here's how you do that. 8 people on a 36-foot boat is going to be cramped quarters. So how do you deal with that? First of all, sleep schedules. Number 2, dinner routines. Number 3, small tasks to keep everybody busy. That's a really key role of leadership. As a matter of fact, that's a key performance indicator in stressful situations. Give everybody a job to do. Now you're going to wait 48 hours for another Navy vessel that's on its way coming to rescue. Our priorities, number 1, keep everybody safe. That means medically, physically, and mentally. Priority number 2, keep the boat above water. Shifts are bailing every single hour to keep that baby afloat. 48 hours later, the PJs strap up the little kids on their shoulders like backpacks. The USS Vandergrift comes to the rescue, and they transfer the family and everybody on board the USS Vandergrift, and the PJs and the family go all the way back to San Diego for the proper medical treatment. When it comes to safety at sea, although luck might play a slight role in survivability, planning and preparation, those are the things that make a difference. The first time you want to conduct a man overboard drill isn't during a man overboard. Hope also is not a safety plan. Always wear a throwable device. No. Always wear your PFD, and on your throwable device, make sure it has retroreflective tape, make sure there's a water-activated light on it, and make sure there's a whistle. Wouldn't it be great if there was a whistle on the one that Ted had? Maybe, just maybe, they would have heard him when they were only a couple hundred meters away. And also remember what 3D planning is. 3D planning is trying to consider absolutely everything that might go wrong on a mission. Not everything that necessarily goes right, but planning and practicing for those things that might hamper your sailing trip. By planning those things and having an emergency activation plan or an emergency operation plan, those are the things that makes a big difference when things go wrong. 3D planning is not thinking of the glass half empty, it's thinking about all those things you can do positively to keep the glass half full. Thanks again for watching From One Veteran to Another. Thank you everybody for your service. And I especially want to thank the 129th Rescue Air Wing out of California. You National Guard guys make me proud. Go Air Force Spec Ops.